Hello, hello, and welcome. Always fun to see how it ends up looking once I actually go live because however I try to set it and make it look, it just decides it wants to do something else. So, I'm Corrina. I'm a holistic health coach and yoga instructor, and I'm so glad that you are here for my live chat. And I don't know if you can read it, but I brought my Magna Doodle from childhood, and of course the dogs decided to go crazy. Oh, maybe. Anyway, so it says health Q&A because that is what this is all about. Had some people in my ASMR chats that were asking for health and wellness live chats like I used to do back in the day. Just bring the light down a little bit. And so that is why we are here. I want to say thank you so much for being here. Now, one of the things that we were kind of talking about in the ASMR chat last night was the recent findings of PFAs, or forever chemicals, as they're termed. They're called forever chemicals because they don't biodegrade, they don't break down. Well, these PFAs or PFOAs have now been found in many different products that most of us are using really commonly. So, one of which is the lining or the inner lining of leggings. They are finding these PFAs and forever chemicals in things like underwear, things like toilet paper. So, many years ago, I started transitioning to the first thing for me was just 100% cotton for things that are next to my more sensitive regions. And certainly, that was like a big start for me, just looking for cotton instead of these different. Um, Many of them are petroleum based, right? So when we see things like pretty much any of the kind of poly related fibers that are in, things that are stretchy. And, no offense, Victoria's Secret, but those underwears, I was like, what in the heck is this made of? Well, it turns out a lot of them are petrochemicals. A lot of them are just weird, polymer, plastic, who knows what they're really made of. And now, all these years later, they're actually finding that, oh, well, many of these also test positive for these PFAs. Or forever chemicals is how you'll more often hear them termed. So that brings me to my first topic of the live chat, which is this brand that I love, and it's called Pact. And I am an affiliate for Pact. So when you go to their link from my Instagram or my YouTube videos or anything like that, it is a way of also helping me out. So Pact makes these wonderful organic clothings. And the first thing that I switched was my underwears. And I felt really strongly that having this, organic cotton, natural materials with natural dyes and all of these kind of considerations was really important for my, you know, my undies, if you will. And then slowly I started kind of transitioning more of my wardrobe. And so my t-shirt here is also from this brand. I'm obsessed with their last call and or clearance section. Highly recommend it. So this is a little ribbed bra top that I got. And then I got these leggings. I believe they were on sale for $10 or $15 or something. Anyways, they're just cute little kind of like winter fun cuteness situation. So I'm a big proponent of this brand, and I have been a big fan of this brand for a long time. And then all of these, mainstream articles started coming out reporting on the presence of these forever chemicals being found, especially in the crotch of the yoga leggings. Yowzers. So, hello to Jules. Glad you're here. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Hello, Aflac. I'm going to see if I can big up this comment section. It'd be great if I'm not like Old Squinty McSquinty eyes trying to read the comment section. Um, okay, guess we won't try to do that. What can we do here? We can at least move it over a little bit so I can see what's going on. What's going on? All right, so Aflac is here, Jules is here. I'm so glad that y'all are here. So I'm kind of repeating what I was talking about last night in the chat. So if you, I know Jules was there. Aflac, I'm not quite sure, but y'all are welcome to ask new questions. I'm happy to talk about. Either remind me of a question that you asked last night and I didn't maybe didn't answer, or if you have a totally new and unearthed question, that is also welcome. Another kind of topic that came up last night while we were kind of discussing these kind of hidden toxins and the things that we don't often think of. Somebody had mentioned perfumes and fragrances and air fresheners and stuff like that. And honestly, Jules, it might have been you. Um, but so a lot of us are aware of the kind of like topical fragrances, colognes, and perfumes being filled with all kinds of strange chemicals and chemicals specifically designed to help the smell last longer. A lot of these things are of questionable safety for humans, I would say. But one of the things a lot of us don't realize is that even those little air fresheners, whether it's one that you spray in the air or whether it's one of those ones that you plug into an outlet and then it sits there and poofs, smoofs at you, poofs, smells at you, um, the different chemicals that are going into those types of things are also not really regulated or really well looked into. So I also consider those to be, sources of toxins in our environment. And so I highly recommend whether it's, you can even, so one of the cool ideas I've seen out there is that like bringing a pot of water on the stove, making it nice and warm, and then you're kind of like throwing potpourri type of things in there. So it's just like fresh flowers or different herbs. Obviously, during these beautiful, kind of fall months that we're in, anything kind of pumpkin spice style, cloves, cinnamon, that would be a lovely thing to scent your home with. And you can do all of that with just like actual foods or actual spices, right? Rather than these different fragrances and synthetic chemicals that are just designed to replicate the things that exist in nature. If you can get something actually from nature instead, is always going to be uh, a good thing to do. Okay, so some other things that are toxic. Let's see. We talked about the memory foam and things like that off gas, and a lot of those mattresses that we get mailed to us, and then they, and I had some of those mattresses. I endorsed some of those mattresses many years ago, and then I found out that like, oh, a lot of the chemicals that they put inside of them turns out they're not super healthy for us. So, um, considering things like pillows that are filled with 100% cotton. And I know that they're expensive because I myself am constantly like looking, trying to find ones that, and you really do kind of have to look because a lot of the, let's just take pillows for an example. There's plenty of pillows out there that I've found and they are lined with organic cotton. But the fill, you got to look at what the fill is because if the fill is one of those polyethylene, polyurethane, memory foam, there's like a couple different weird names that you'll see. But unfortunately, those have been found to have formaldehyde in them and all kinds of weird stuff that, you know, um, they basically have not ever tested it for safety, exposing it to humans for safety. So not only are there, I think, too many of those different kind of chemicals to keep track of, but then it also is kind of a tall order to think that they would be able to test all of them for safety. And largely they don't, right? And by the time that we as consumers are finding out about something being a source of toxicity or containing some kind of questionable uh, chemical, we've already been consuming that thing for ages and ages, right? So, um, So the more that I talk about all of these things, the more that it reminds me the importance of my yoga training, which was that we are kind of aware of our stress levels. We start to notice when we're getting overwhelmed and overly stressed, and we kind of bring in our calming techniques, whether it's just taking a few slow, deep breaths. For me, I really like doing that box breathing, or rectangular breathing, perhaps is more accurate. And I do like having a little visual. So before we keep talking about sources of toxins, because here it's been 10 minutes into my chat and I already feel like I mentioned like a lot of toxins. Let's do a little calming breathing. Because largely, if we can help our body learn to breathe in a healthier way and in a way that sends messages to our nervous system that it should not be in fight or flight mode, then that's another really great way of dealing with toxins and reducing our toxicity by helping promote the body's natural detox processes. All right, so I'm just giving a little why I'm going to go into the breathing exercise right now. So, when we talk about 4-part breathing or breath ratios in yoga, um, this was kind of adapted by the military into something that they call box breathing, which is a similar concept. And the whole idea is that we're breaking the breath into 4 different parts. So, we have an inhale, maybe it lasts 3 seconds or 4 seconds, and then you hold your breath for a moment. You put your presence and your attention on that moment between the inhale and the exhale. And I encourage you to start with just like a brief moment, because as you extend this period of time, it's a little bit challenging, right? And once you get to a box, which is like 4 seconds, 4 seconds, 4 seconds exhale, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds inhale, 4 seconds hold, that's quite challenging. Okay. Holding for 4 seconds in between the inhale and exhale, it is a challenge. So start small. Start with just pausing for a brief moment. It doesn't even have to be a full second. Part of it is just your brain recognizing this time in between the inhale and exhale. And then as you start playing with the breath ratios, well, essentially what you're doing is you're changing the durations of these different parts of the breath. And another great trick, and this is actually a way of stimulating the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve, what's funny, okay, Mel, I see you in here. Hi, Mel B. De-stressing is good. Need to learn techniques to use even in the middle of a busy day. So this is a lovely one, right? This is a super simple one, just a simple like noticing the 4 parts of our breath. So then another breath ratio is where you extend the exhalation. So that would make this like a bit of a like trapezoid figure, right? You have the inhale, the hold, and then a nice long exhalation, and then a hold. And then the longer you exhale, the harder it's going to be to hold. So you have to it's all something to kind of play with and notice, and don't ever let it stress you out too badly. The whole idea of doing the kind of like restricted breathing exercises and really paying attention to each part of the breath is that when you sink back into your regular breathing, it becomes super deep and super calming. And so it's something like not to keep forcing yourself to do the ratios if it starts to feel stressful. But if it starts feeling stressful, go back to your regular breathing. And what you should find is that now your regular breathing is even more calm and relaxed. So starting with the 4 parts of breath, working on, different ratios. But a good one to start with would be like 4 inhale, 1 second hold, 4 second exhale, 1 second hold. So you would write that as 4-1-4-1 if you were writing the breath ratio. So those extended exhalations, the breathing trapezoid, if you will, where the exhale is nice and slow. So it really takes a lot of um, focus, right? You have to really think about it to slow down your exhale and drag that exhalation out. So, what that does when you do that is it tells your vagus nerve, which is one of the very important cranial nerves that helps us regulate between fight or flight and a state of calm, if you will. Those extended exhalations are great for stimulating the vagus nerve and building what they call vagal tone, which is essentially the body's ability to switch from a stressed state to a calm state. Um, so let's see. So let's think about what are some other good ways to de stress, even in the middle of a busy day. So, depending on where we live, one of the best things that you can do is getting outside. And I feel like a broken record saying this, but I think it's important to remind people because sometimes even I have to remind myself. I'll be sitting there at the computer and I'm kind of feeling overwhelmed. And then I'll kind of like have to think for myself. And it's almost like I have this realization like, oh, I should probably go outside and get some fresh air. So, it's something that, again, we have to have a little cognizance for. So they've done studies where they find that just looking at trees and sky and things outdoors has a really positive effect on your brain. I saw some weird post. I didn't look into whether this is true or not, but it said that on cows, they put some kind of VR helmet on them and they were looking at like a big, grassy, beautiful field. And just seeing the big, grassy, beautiful field in the VR helmet increased the milk production. I would have to kind of go and double check that to know if it's real. But if it is, it kind of uh, supports what I'm saying there, which is like just visually seeing those things is really positive for us. And I would argue that when we're actually literally outdoors is even more beneficial. But depending on the time of year or the place where we live, sometimes that's really not something that's possible. So I would encourage you to look up pictures of those things, especially if you can have like maybe like a painting or photographs or prints, like buying, prints of photography. I do think that there's a benefit of not looking at it on a screen. I've not supported that or whatever, but I've not, found the research to purport that necessarily. But I do know that one of the things that affects our sleep and our stress is the blue light that comes out of the cell phone. Um, so avoiding screen time. It's kind of funny, right? It's kind of something that like I think that we hear adults talk about, like that they're gonna like for their kids, like, oh, we gotta limit the screen time for our kiddos. But I encourage us as like adults, like we gotta focus on limiting the screen time for ourselves, especially because in this, that sounds silly saying in this day and age, but I mean, really, in this day and age, our work is online, a lot of us. And even if our work isn't online, there's probably a significant part of your job that involves you having to go online and be in front of a computer. A lot of us are, doing things on our phones all the time too. So I spend so much time on the phone, trying to maintain my social medias and do whatever and edit TikToks. And, those things are fun and they're creative and I enjoy them. But I'm definitely aware that, like, this is a lot of screen time. So anything I can do to get myself off the phone, get myself away from the screen, there's lots of things that, the phone makes more convenient for us, like the little notes app. And I have probably thousands of little notes in my notes app. So I say this not as someone who doesn't use my notes app, but as an idea of something that I think is beneficial for us, get out a notepad and a pen. Sorry, just momentary ASMR. Get out a notepad and a pen and actually write down the things. The people I know who I felt had the most, I don't know, the most calm about them or the most whatever, they keep a written planner. or a written journal. Most of the yoga teachers I know still have written journals, written schedule, written whatever. Something about the pen in our hand and the feeling of the paper, I know that I really enjoy it, right? And it gives me kind of this gratification. I also know that when we're doing dexterous things, tactile things with our hands, that's also really good for our brain, especially compared to things on the phone, which lose that dexterity. Not necessarily dexterity, depending on what we're doing, right? But losing that tactile thing of like writing on a page. So I would consider that one of the things we can do to de-stress, right? Put down our phone, get away from the computer, either step outside. Or if it's not stepping outside, maybe it's looking at some beautiful pictures or looking at beautiful paintings, um, looking at something in the real world, IRL, to use the online, um, whatever you call that, abbreviation. Do something IRL. Thank you so much, Lord Vader's wife. I'm so glad you're here. It is so funny. I don't know why it looks like so crazy bright. This thing is on 5%. I guess even at 5%, it was quite crazy. I actually think I look kind of weird with it completely off. What I can do is kind of not have it pointed at myself so much. All right. How am I doing tonight? I'm doing pretty well. I am a little disappointed in myself that I underestimated how much like space I would need to really like set up a yoga mat type of thing. So anyway, so I'm happy to talk about yoga questions if y'all have yoga questions, but I don't actually. I'm just gonna have to keep pushing the desk farther to make more room for myself. Okay, can I hold on one second, y'all? Okay, that works. You. Alrighty. Okay, now I can read the comments. I'll be honest, guys. I was like, come on, eyeballs. You can do it. All right. How do I listen to an old ASMR session with you to fall asleep? Gotta hold my phone, then bonk myself in the face when I fall asleep. Yeah, I mean, haven't we all fricking like bonked ourselves in the head with our phone? Um, it's a good question. I've honestly laid in bed looking at ASMR videos on my phone many times thinking this exact question. And I've thought things like, they have those little like projectors now. I was like, I could just set it on the nightstand and project the video onto the ceiling. If I even like wanted to see the video, if there was like a visual thing, right? Because obviously it's easy if we just like put in the earbuds or whatever and then like don't look at the screen. But if you wanted to look at the screen, or I mean, obviously if you like wanted to watch a movie or something, like this like projector scenario. So I thought about that. They do have, lots of different like sleep phones is the brand that I've tried before. And it's like a headband situation. And then it has the little earbuds like built into the headband. So you don't actually have to have the earbud like plunged into your ear, which I find super uncomfortable. I'll be honest. I really dislike it. In fact, I don't even know if I need to be. Because I'm just sitting here talking in my regular voice to you, basically. So I don't think I need these, but hopefully I don't regret. I'm going to keep them nearby. I'm assuming since no one said anything that hopefully it's sounding okay and y'all can hear me okay. So yeah, I've definitely, like, propped my phone up, like, on my water bottle on my bedside table and kinda, like, lay on my like, because I am a kind of a side sleeper, lay on my side and, like, look at the phone. It's a good question, though. I feel like I feel like there is perhaps, like, an invention here that we are, like, uncovering. Um, and you know what? There is also this incredible pillow, Pilo, pillow. It would be a faff for me to go and try to get this thing right now, but literally this pillow has little speakers in it. So when you lay on the pillow, you fricking hear your things ear to ear, which if you are not a side sleeper, could totally work. Kind of a faff for side sleeping, but it's a really cool, like, thingamajig. I should try to see if I can do a collaboration with that brand because it's really, really cool. It's very neat. I think the technology was kind of lacking, the one that I got. It I couldn't, like, it didn't really, like, work with all the videos when I plugged it my phone or whatever. But between that cool pillow scenario and a projector projecting something on the ceiling, like, that could be kind of a freaking cool thing. That could be kind of a cool thing. Jules, are metal water bottles safe? I sure hope so. My water bottle is stainless steel. At least that's, like what it says on the inside. And then I think that it has some kind of coating or whatever, it's like colorful on the outside. But the interior of it is stainless steel. And so I really like the stainless steel. I feel pretty, like, good about that. It feels easy to clean. I can put, like, super hot water in it, and then it certainly doesn't, like, retain the flavor of whatever the previous thing was. Just kind of a telltale sign, right? Um, there's also glass water bottles, and a lot of times they'll have kind of a rubber, doohickey thing that kind of protects it. Um, so I have one of those. I do really like that. Obviously, glass it's heavy. It's not it you feel a little, like, uncomfortable, like, I wouldn't necessarily wanna take that on a hike or something and, like, have it, like, in my backpack pressed with a bunch of other things. That'd be a little disconcerting. But it's certainly, like, a great alternative to a plastic water bottle for, like, the water bottle I have while I'm, like, walking around the house or going for just, like, some errands or something like that. Um, I don't know what the Stanley Cup it looks like it's stainless steel on the inside, I would just assume, that it is. I don't have a Stanley Cup, but I see them all over the interwebs, so I know they're quite popular these days, quite popular. Um, so yeah, so the blue light thing, Mel, I see you just kind of chiming in there again on the blue light. Another thing you can do on your phone is tell it to, turn things red. I'm trying to remember display and brightness. So I've got mine on dark on my phone. Um, so basically, all the pages that I go to are dark instead of white. And so basically, all the apps that I'm in, it just kind of like switches how they look. But I really like it. So that's one change that I have. I'm on the dark setting. And then yeah, it's called night shift. Night shift is what it's called, at least on iPhone, and I would assume that Android has something at least, comparable. But basically, you can, make it less warm, which would be more blue, or more warm, so it just kinda orangifies everything. You do have to remember sometimes that you have that on because 'cause you'll be like, "Holy F, what is wrong with my eyes? Like, did somebody really post a video that looks like that?" No, they didn't. You have on your night shift. Um but putting that warm setting on, so the light coming out of the phone is just a little bit more red and a little less blue. Um, I I'm not super I'm sure that I'm sure that it's beneficial for that, or else they wouldn't, have that option in there. But I'm not going to sit here and say that it's XYZ% more effective or less harmful than the blue light. I think the light still coming out of the phone is probably still not super ideal, but increasing that warmness thing maybe helps. Okay, cool. You use the warmness thing. I have a Stanley Cup. It keeps my water cold all day. I truly hope it's a safe brand. I would have to I'd have to go look it up, and I don't wanna be plinking around here, but, it looks from, the looks of the Stanley Cups that I've seen all over the TikTok, they appear to be filled with stainless steel, which I think is pretty standard for things like that, so you're probably fine. That is one thing about plastic is at least we can identify it pretty easily, and I will say there've been times when I've been in a store or been somewhere and I pick up a glass and I'm like, "Oh, this is kinda cool," or a bowl or whatever. And then I'm like, "It's like plastic lining on the inside." Now, I do have some plastic, coffee cups and mugs and stuff that I use, um, from time to time. But in terms of, like, excuse me, having, the water bottle that we're gonna drink out of every single day, all day, every day, I would say it's a worthy investment for that particular vesicle, to have something that's either stainless steel or glass. There are also some plastics now that they'll even say this plastic is BPA free. Um, I think that it's probably just a matter of time till they find some other harmful chemicals in the plastic that are also worth avoiding, but minimally, that BPA-free plastic will at least be, a step in the right direction. Um, and for things like, water bottles for hiking and whatever, taking on trips, sometimes a plastic water bottle just it really does make more sense. Jewel says, "Yeah, Karina, how you gonna tell us to limit screen time and then drop the dopest ASMR content in the multiverse?" That is so sweet of you. So sweet of you. Um, I mean, I honestly feel conflicted about it, and I think about that sometimes. I literally am like, "Okay, I know that, like, we're probably all on our phones too much." And realistically, I think the phone, oh, it's like a balancing act, right? Negative effects of the phone. The blue light coming out of the phone. Now, one of the reasons that they say that it's harmful is because that stimulation, that light coming out of the phone, suppresses the brain from making melatonin. And it's because the messages coming into the brain is saying that it's still light outside. Basically, our safety mechanism is to only produce melatonin when it's dark so that we sleep at night. In order for us to sleep at night, part of this circadian rhythm is that sun exposure during the day. And then as the sun begins to wane and there's less light coming in through the eyeballs, right? That helps tell the brain that, like, hey, it's nighttime. It's time to start producing melatonin. And then the melatonin helps us sleep. So between, electricity that allows us to have the lights on at all times of day, any time of day, right? Um, and then the LED light or the flashing light, the blue light, as they call it, in relation to, electronic devices. Um, so now we have a balancing act. Well, if we're going to be on a device, let's at least watch something that's trying to relax us rather than watching something that's, you know, true crime. Now, I definitely binge on some true crime sometimes, but there are moments where I'm like, I should not be watching this right before going to sleep. I'll watch it first thing tomorrow morning. Just kidding. But not really. Um, But yeah, so, watching something relaxing is definitely better, but realistically, my advice to people would be like, don't even watch my ASMR videos. Turn off your phone. I'm a huge proponent of a sleep mask. But sometimes a sleep mask like bothers me touching my eyes. So a lot of times I just have a t-shirt. Um, whatever, and and seriously, guys, I maybe shouldn't even be doing this in the middle of the chat because it can literally put me to sleep like instantly. Um, I really have to like get all the light out of my eyes to help my brain realize that it's time to sleep. And even if I'm feeling really, really tired sometimes, and then I lay down and it even like seems dark in the room, like my eye will pop open and I'm like hyper aware of some light coming in from the parking lot across the street or whatever. So a big thing for me is covering the eyes and it helps. Um, but yeah, maybe I don't know. Now my brain is going like, because for me, the tactile nature of things. I mean, it's why I'm obsessed with making ASMR videos, right? I love the tactile nature of things. I think maybe if ASMR was more tactile for the viewer could also be nice. So I'm like, my brain is just thinking like, what if you had ASMR, but it was like a book, but then you have the audio coming in, but then rather than looking at the screen, you have like a book and maybe it's like images or like there's like texture on the pages or different images that go with the sounds or like, I don't know. Um, but I think giving a tactile experience to the enjoyer of the ASMR also could be really cool. And for me, that tactile part is very, very um, part of why I love creating the content so much. Why I just find myself obsessed with items in general. Um, so BPA, bisphenol A, or bisphenol A, I've heard it pronounced both ways. But bisphenol A is one of the many, many tremendous number of chemicals that are in plastics. This particular one that they started studying and finding that it had various toxic effects. A lot of times they're looking at mice, right? Which in a way is like so sad. Like, why? Why do we have to torture mice? I mean, obviously torturing mice maybe is like not as bad as torturing humans, but if we feel like we're torturing them, then like doesn't that alone tell us that like anyway. So bisphenol A, but that was like I feel several years ago that they told us about bisphenol A. So in a way I'm kind of surprised they haven't discovered more harmful chemicals in the plastic. Um it's an interesting question though. Like I was thinking the other day, okay, the people who discovered plastic and discovered that it could be made into virtually anything, right? The underwears at Victoria's Secret, right? A lot of the yoga leggings, they're made from plastic. And they were like, okay, great. Wow, this plastic stuff, this is great. Why don't we package all the food, all the beverages, and all of the skincare products in it? Why don't we make the pipes under people's houses out of it? To tell me that they just had no idea that one day that chemical would turn out to have negative effects on human beings, I just don't believe it. So then it's like that movie Idiocracy or whatever, where they're like sitting there and they're like weighing the cost and benefit and not sure is trying to tell them that like the plants need water and they're like, no, the plants need Brando, it has electrolytes. I think they're Brondo. Is it Brondo? I think it's Brondo. And he's like, "No, no, the plants need water." And they're like, "You mean from the toilet?" I mean, just and so the reason I bring this up is just kind of conceptually, right? Like, we are all like, "Yeah, plastic, of course, like plastic water bottles, plastic this. They're gonna make everything out of plastic. It's cheap, of course." But then in another perspective, you could have people being like, "Wait a second, you're packaging the food and every body product that people put on their skin every day in something toxic?" And I'm not even talking about like what's in the skincare products. I'm just talking about the bottle. And be like, "Wait a second, wait a second. All the foods that you guys eat are not actually made of foods?" Um, so anyways, I think about that sometimes. I think about how like our weird world that we live in, other people could be looking at that from an external perspective and just being like, "What are they thinking? That's just crazy." But for us, it's like completely normalized. Anyway, um what modern things are harmful to female fertility? Okay, well, a shorter list is going to be letting you know the things that are not toxic to female fertility. Vegetables. Um, so when I was in college and I was beginning to look at some of the effects of these different chemicals, one of the effects or one of the categories is called endocrine disruptors. So, your endocrine system is basically the hormone system of the body. And it's arguably one of the most important systems of the body, being that hormones are the basic message senders, message deliverers of the body. Um, and so I was very mystified at first as I was coming upon these endocrine disruptors. And basically what that means is it disrupts the ability of your endocrine system to make hormones correctly, and to regulate the amounts of hormones, the secretion of hormones that the body needs. So not only did I find, I was shocked, right, to find like why would they be using these chemicals that disrupt our hormones systems? Um, and then over the years, they're just the list of those endocrine disrupting chemicals became longer and longer and longer. And um, unfortunately, one of the things is the plastics. I believe bisphenol A is one of those that's categorized as an endocrine disruptor. There are many chemicals that are what they call oestrogenic. So they mimic estrogen in the body. And then the body are floating around in the body. And then a certain cell or part of the body that needs estrogen absorbs this oestrogenic chemical, but then it doesn't function like estrogen because it's not estrogen. It's an estrogen mimic. So these oestrogenic chemicals also becoming increasingly prevalent. Um, so rather than fixating on all of the things that are toxic and how it's basically impossible for us to avoid them, which is kind of a crazy statement, but also not completely untrue, let's shift to this concept of how do we support the body's natural detoxification processes? Because the body is designed to detoxify itself, to recognize things that are coming into the body that are harmful, and to either break them down and secrete them and get rid of them. In some cases, those chemicals can't be broken down by the body and then they are sequestered or they're just moved off into a little area. Unfortunately, that sequestering of chemicals, I believe, is part of what begins the process of cancer and the formation of tumors. The body's having to sequester chemicals that it can't otherwise dispose of. So obviously, reducing our exposures to toxins is a really important thing to do. But there's also a certain amount of that that is difficult to avoid. Um, so when we think about things that help support the body's natural process of detoxification, we were talking last night in the ASMR chat about the lymphatic system. So the lymph fluid is just one mechanism the body has for transporting the good things throughout the body and getting rid of the bad things from the body. Um, so, things that help support our lymphatic system are actually, in my view, things that also help us support our body's natural process of detoxification. So, dry skin brushing. I think I left the dry skin brushes somewhere. But I was showing those last night in the chat. And you can even look up like a full body protocol of dry skin brushing. But that dry skin brushing is very helpful for to stimulate that lymph fluid that's just below the skin. So above our muscles, but between the skin and the muscles, there's that kind of layer of lymphatic fluid. The lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like the heart. So we can do also lymphatic massage on ourselves. So one of the things that y'all taught me last night in the chat was that the lymphatic system uh, dumps, so to speak, into the subclavicular nodes. So the lymph nodes that are underneath the clavicle. So these bones that we feel right here under the neck. Um, I really like just kind of like the basic kind of like tapping on the area. And then I'm actually working with Athena. I told her, let's make a self lymphatic massage thing for people and show people how they can help massage their own lymphatic system. And then a separate program that's, teaching for massage therapists who are actually working on another person. But I told her, like, this would be a great thing for people to learn to do on themselves. So hopefully I can get her to do that. So, helping to support our lymphatic system. We also have lymph nodes under the armpit, the axillaries. So, just massaging the armpit. And you can there's, people that have shown in much more detail than me, but a basic daily protocol for helping support the lymphatic system. So, a little bit of maybe massage, dry skin brushing. Um, Athena says that jumping on trampolines really does not help support the lymphatic system, but jumping on trampolines is freaking fun. So if you like jumping on a trampoline or you do the like bounce workouts and stuff, I think that's a wonderful thing. And I feel like it's probably has some benefit on your circulation, but minimally, it's a good workout and it's fun. Um, so supporting the lymphatic system. Um, I know there's another one that, like, gets said all the time, but drinking lots of water, making sure that, the body is not getting dehydrated. Um, Speaking of which, of course, I didn't bring my wait, did I? I was like, "I know I had to bring a frickin' water over here, that'd be silly." So drinking lots of water. There's a lot of people out there who are like, "I hate water." I'm like, "How can you hate water?" Like, I get you could be like, water, you're kinda boring." But hate? I mean, anyways, but it is important that we're drinking water. And if you have to add some kind of flavor, something to your water, I think that's better than not drinking the water. But I think it's also worth noting that having plain water is also very beneficial. I see Lady Vader asking about liquid IV. I'm going to have to Google it. That I can look up on my phone pretty easily, though. So, ingredients. Have you ever been on Water Talk before? I have watched some Water Talk. I've watched some Water Talk. I've listened to some people discuss the controversy of Water Talk, but I can't say that I've personally been on Water Talk before because I've never made a video about flavoring water, but I feel like I should. I feel like I should. Okay. Vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free. Amino acid allulose blend. So allulose is um, a sweetener derived from um, certain foods. Okay, let's see. L-glutamine, L-alanine, pantothenic acid, or vitamin B5. Yeah. So yeah, allulose, nearly cavity-free. Oh, you know what? Liquid IVs. I've seen these before. I think I've tried these before. Um, so yeah, so I think that allulose is maybe the only thing that's a little strange, but in the grand scheme of things, it is a sweetener derived from actual foods, so that in my mind makes it far safer, right, than any of the artificial sweeteners, like the sucralose, which so many of those little water additives have sucralose, acesulfame potassium. You don't see aspartame very much anymore because they realized that the consumer awareness of the dangers of aspartame was too grand. Um, so now we got to look out for the acesulfame potassium. It's ACE sulfame, acesulfame, potassium, and sucralose, which I just feel is like so like they were obviously trying to confuse people. They want people to just think it's sucrose. Oh, it's just sugar. It's nothing. But the sucralose, now it's on the same level as aspartame. Anyway, how do you feel about stevia? I prefer it to artificial sweeteners and sugar alcohols, which make my face puffy, I swear. I would not be surprised at all if sugar alcohols make your face puffy. The sugar alcohols are so that would be like I think allulose is considered one. Erythritol is one of the sugar alcohols. And okay, so your answer to your first question, stevia, yes. I would consider stevia the number one best choice as a sugar alternative. And that's because it is made from a plant called a stevia plant. And you can look up a picture of a stevia plant. I have seen bags of like raw organic stevia powder. It's green, like the plant, but that would probably be like the best source of stevia. There's a lot of different stevia things now and syrups and products. And they, of course, have a little stevia sugar packet that looks just like all the other sugar packets. Um, so stevia definitely I would say is a much better choice than all of those other um, sugar fake sugar alternatives. If you can find a natural and organic stevia, that's really nice. Or sometimes stevia will just come in a little, oil dropper or something like that. I encourage you to still look at the ingredients label on the thing and make sure that it's not in something else. Or God forbid they add artificial sweeteners to the stevia, but I promise you there is probably a brand out there somewhere that does that. I feel like I see that kind of thing all the time. The artificial sweeteners just thrown in. Whether it's regular candies or things that say that they're sweetened with stevia or say that there's something else, I think they just want us to become so used to the artificial sweetener flavors that we don't even notice them. Um, but artificial sweeteners are one of the like main things I will try to avoid. So stevia, a great, um, replacement for sugar. And yeah, the sugar alcohols, because they're kind of new, they just don't have I feel like I've not seen a tremendous amount of research on them, but I feel like, they're minimally confusing. It's confusing to the body when the body takes in something sweet and there's no sugar, there's no carbohydrates there. So definitely would not surprise me if they make you puffy, right? They're sending mixed messages to your body about how much water it needs to retain in order to maintain these really important gradients, right? Every different fluid um you know wall or whatever, right, of the body, there's different pH gradients for every single one. The body's constantly trying to regulate our pH and regulate the concentration of different, whether it's sugar in the bloodstream or, you know, other chemicals that it's trying to balance on either side of the gradient. The body's constantly working to do that. So, these sugar alcohols confusing the body and causing it to retain more water than it needs to, that just honestly kind of makes perfect sense. Um, and the proof is in the pudding, I say. So if you have that effect and you notice that effect on you when you take it, I think that speaks volumes, even if they haven't necessarily done the research yet that, can help us understand it. Most of the droppers have vegetable glycerin or alcohol. It's not necessarily bad. Obviously, those things they're just in everything. It'd be very difficult to find things without them. Um, if you can find something that isn't diluted with anything, because if we're talking about vegetable glycerin, now they're literally just trying to, you know, I mean, I guess there's a certain amount they need to dilute it, perhaps. That's also like the alcohol, I would be less concerned about because alcohol is a common distillate, right? Or something that they put something else into to help, make it at a better concentration for people using it. Um, I would have to look around though and see if I can find a stevia that doesn't have any vegetable glycerin in it. It may exist. But yeah, the powdered raw organic stevia that's green, that was like what I considered, you know, kind of the best, the closest to nature, you could say. But I also think that if you're using stevia and it's got a little vegetable glycerin and alcohol in it, the grand scheme of things, it's not worth worrying about. Certainly better for you that you're using stevia than lots of the other myriads of different sweeteners that are out there that I consider legitimately harmful. Um, what is a more healthy option for dessert? Um, Trying to think of a good answer. I mean, I don't know. I don't have as much of a sweet tooth as I used to. I will sometimes buy, I really like these little like eclair things. They're like little, chocolate eclairs in the frozen section. They're small, cute. Um, I know I feel silly saying this. I feel like a broken record, but I'm just going to go back to this concept of things that are actual foods. So what do I mean by that? If it contains um, high fructose corn syrup, especially if it's like corn syrup solids, high fructose corn syrup, and corn syrup, That's not real food. It's not real food. It's a real food that's been taken, turned into some kind of crazy who knows even what or how they turned it into that, but it's no longer real food. So if we could actually just um maybe it's like kind of a sweet cornbread. And sometimes the cornbread is so sweet it feels like dessert. But if we actually used a whole grain flour and some corn or something like that, um, or maybe that's not really a great example. Um, Fruits. I love like fruits dipped in chocolate. I really love that cacao bliss stuff. Then I'll mix it with a little bit of maple syrup and dip strawberries or blueberries, raspberries like into that little chocolate stuff. But I love that. And when you're doing something with darker chocolate, it tends to be more satiating. And part of the reason dark chocolate tastes bad is because of the antioxidants in the dark chocolate, and the antioxidants are bitter. So it's kind of this funny thing, right? Where actually what makes the food kind of bitter is part of what makes it healthy. But that bitterness is also what helps signal to your brain that you're eating something. And when we are getting those signals, eventually the brain will be like, yeah, and you know what? I'm good on that now. So it's easier for me to monitor how much I'm eating, and I don't feel like I have to control how much I'm eating, but just eating dark chocolate makes it easier. At a certain point, my body's like, cool, you know what? Now I'm good on that. So I have these as an example. Skinny dipped cups. I haven't opened them yet. Because I'm sure they'll be gone as soon as I open them. This one's got the allulose in there. But yeah, cane sugar, maple sugar, non-fat milk powder. I consider that kind of a processed food, um, but if we compared this to what the ingredients on a Reese's Pieces are like, you'll realize like, oh wow, these things are definitely like closer to their natural foods that they came from or that they were made from. Um, and then you can also factor in just the sheer volume of sugar is going to be different. So healthy desserts, if you're into cakes and things like that, just try making them with whole grain flour or some kind of. There's also lots of gluten-free flours that, whether you're gluten-free or not, I consider them like a very good, like healthy whole food type of thing. So, like almond flour, tapioca flour, coconut flour, these things all offer different nutritional benefits from the foods that they're made out of. So just using something like that in a cake or, cupcakes or muffins or whatever is going to go a long way in helping that food have more fiber, have more nutritional value. Not only does it become more satiating and satisfying of your hunger, but it's better for your body as well, right? It gives your body more nutrients as well. My favorite sweeteners, my favorite sweetener is probably maple syrup. And you just want to make sure that it's like 100% maple syrup, not high fructose corn syrup with maple flavor added. Because then you're still eating this processed corn syrup, right? You're not getting any of the benefits that you get. You actually do obtain nutrients when you eat the maple syrup. That's actually 100% maple syrup. Honey is another great example. Citric acid, sodium benzoate, and potassium sorbate. Is another liquid stevia examples. So yeah, sodium benzoate is one of those chemicals that has gotten a lot of attention lately as being potentially harmful, but it's also something that's just in everything. Then you start to wonder, well, just because it's in everything, that doesn't necessarily make it safe. And if it's in everything, then how do they have any way of estimating how much of the chemical we're actually taking in? Right? Because one of their methodologies for a lot of these chemicals is like, oh, it's trace amounts. Oh, it's trace amounts of this, trace amounts of that. Well, if it's a trace amounts of the chemical, but then the chemicals are in everything that we're eating 3 times a day, then like how can they even possibly guess how much the average person is actually taking in of that chemical in a day or in a week or in a whatever. Um, so yeah, citric acid, sodium benzoate, potassium sorbate. I wouldn't like throw away your stevia if that's what it has in it, but maybe the next time you're buying stevia, see if you can find one that doesn't have as many additives in it. Um, and oh, monk fruit. Yeah, monk fruit is another right, here's, like, an actual food source of sweetener, and they are have actually, extracted it from the monk fruit. Um, from a holistic health perspective, we'd be like, "Oh, well, you'd actually wanna just, like, eat the monk fruit rather than extracting the sugar out of it." But compared to all of these horrible toxic sweeteners, extracting the sugar from the monk fruit and using that, I would say as yes, definitely a healthier sweetener, or a healthier sugar alternative than like 90% of the other sugar alternatives that are out there. Yeah, coconut sugar, one of my favorite things. Not only does the coconut have a bunch of nutrients in it. But I really like the taste of coconut sugar too. It's not super strong or anything, but I think coconut sugar gives a really nice flavor to things, nice little subtle flavor to things. Um, and yeah, it's like it is a sugar. It does contain sugar. It does raise your blood sugar, all those things that they're kind of made us so scared of, right, with the artificial sweeteners. But those sugars are also not only they give your body some nutrients because of the food that they come from, um, but when you're eating the actual food source of sugar, it's something your body knows how to break down more easily, right? When they concentrate down the sweetness of the corn and turn it into a corn syrup solid or a high fructose corn syrup, the body doesn't know how to break that down as well, right? It doesn't encounter that chemical in nature. Whereas if you're just eating the corn or even eating the coconut sugar, now you're at least eating something that the human body has encountered, you know, um, not just in the last like 50 or 60 years or 100 years, maybe, depending on the food chemical. Hi, Bessa65. So glad that you are here. Thank you for being here. And we got John in the house. Jules chiming in. Ironically, Splenda makes a liquid stevia. So yeah, man. Sorry, Splenda. You're on my shift list, Splenda. And Splenda being like, "Oh yeah, now we're gonna make a stevia." No, it's not because they're like, we should try to do something that would really help people get healthy. No, Splenda's like, "Hey, we're losing too much of our market share by people who don't want to eat these artificial sweeteners." That's why they made a stevia sweetener. So yeah, not surprising at all. Actually, I just read the last half of your comment and didn't read the first couple words the first time. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that it's the Splenda version of stevia that has citric acid, sodium benzoate, and potassium sorbate. Um, Hello, Just Joe. Glad you're here. Thank you for joining. Yes, it is. It's like the old times. It really is. And I appreciate y'all so much for like asking me to do this because I would not otherwise without y'all encouraging me to do a live chat and y'all wanting to talk about this stuff. I just feel like there's so many people out there now talking about health and nutrition, and I'm like, why does anyone want like why do I need to like get on there and be like, well, let me talk about the vegetable? Like, I just feel silly. I feel silly. But Y'all are so sweet. So if y'all like want to come and have these chats, that just like makes me so happy and thrilled, thrilled to uh to chat with y'all. Okay, so Jules, so can you expand on how sweeteners confuse your body or make you retain water? Can't stevia do that as well? Let me do a bit more like research on that. Um, Stevia. I mean, I think that all of the different sweeteners are going to have different effects, right? Depending on like the artificial sweeteners versus the sugar alcohols versus the stevia type things. Now, I think stevia because it's coming from an herb, um, it's coming from a plant, it's not going to have the same effects on the body as the sugar alcohols. Um, but let me circle back. Let me circle back on that, and I will do kind of a deep dive on sweeteners, so that I can give you a little bit more like, you know, for some reason the word graphite came to mind. Solid. I give you a solid explanation and kind of comparing the different types of sweeteners and how they affect the body because I've not really gone down that rabbit hole in a while. Big fan of fiber. John, woo! Fans of fiber in the house. Whoop whoop. My only stipulation is that we should be getting our fiber from foods. And once again, when we see a big jar of fiber that's been extracted from a bunch of foods and then put in a jar, and so I think like Metamucil, right, is the typical fiber brand. There's probably a lot of them now. Rather than adding scoops of fiber to something, I would much rather people just be getting fiber from the foods they're eating. And the very fact that they had to extract a bunch of fiber out from foods and put it into a little powdered form that people could dump in their water, I feel is just a testament to the fact that they have removed the fiber from the foods we're eating. The foods would just have fiber in them if they weren't so highly processed. One of the most, iconic examples is the enriched white flour. And unfortunately, if you start looking at the backs of things, you're going to see enriched flour in freaking everything. This is a cream of chicken soup that I have here. So I think it actually doesn't have enriched flour in it. Modified cornstarch, though. So frickin' knows what that is. But yeah, like the whole reason that flour is called enriched is because they remove so many things from the flour to make it white, right? They remove the fiber, they remove a lot of the nutrients. That's why whole wheat bread is brown. In order to get bread to be white, like our typical white bread, they have to remove certain parts of the grain. And then what resulted was so bad for people, so hard for people to digest, they had to add a couple of nutrients back into it. And then they gave it the name enriched flour. But that's like if somebody comes, they break open your car window, they steal everything in your car, all of your items, everything that actually means anything to you, and then they like throw a half empty bag of Skittles onto the seat for you. Like, "Oh, here. I feel bad taking everything out of your car. Let me enrich you a little bit with my half-eaten bag of Skittles." And then you're like, "Yeah, but you just stole all my stuff." He's like, "Yeah, but I enriched you by giving you half a bag of Skittles that you didn't have before." Anyway, I could go off on a rampage about enriched flour for a long time. But it was that enriched flour and largely the processing and removal of fiber from other foods that necessitated them to actually sell fiber to people so that they could, their body could function like it's supposed to. Anyway, kidney supportive foods and drinks besides cranberry. Um, that's a really good question. Ooh, hold on, I just gotta get a little little adjustment here. Um, One of the first things that I think is important to recognize is that too much protein can actually be really hard on the kidneys. There's not a tremendous number of people that I think that applies to, but because of the prevalence of protein powders, like here I am talking about another powder. It's in a plastic tub, and we dump it into stuff. The prevalence of protein powders and this notion that people aren't getting enough protein, uh, I think has been really, really detrimental to people and especially to their kidneys. Because too much protein is hard on your kidneys and can damage your kidneys, depending on how much protein or how often you're overdoing your protein intake. So I think that's a really important thing to mention. Kidneys kidneys do a lot of really important things. I feel like we don't maybe like give them like the full like appreciation, right? But like they're really really important for helping to get rid of the things that our body needs to get rid of. Um so let's help support our kidneys, right? So this list says cauliflower, blueberries, sea bass, red grapes, eggs, garlic, buckwheat, olive oil, bulgur, cabbage, chicken, peppers, onions, arugula, macadamia nuts, radish, turnips, pineapple, cranberries, mushrooms. And this is awesome because basically what I wanted to say is your kidneys and your digestive tract in general love it when you eat vegetables. Um so not to just be like your kidneys love vegetables, but like here's this thing on Healthline that basically says like your kidneys love vegetables. So yeah, cauliflower, blueberries, red grapes, eggs, and then buckwheat and bulgur. These are two really good examples of whole grains. A lot of us are primarily are the main grain that we take in is wheat, right? In the form of breads, in the form of pastas. But there's a lot of different grains out there, and they all have a different nutritional profile, different types of nutrients that they offer. So bulgur and buckwheat are two great examples. Bulgur you can buy in the bulk section of the grocery store and cook it just like rice. Another good one is farro. It's another great like whole grain. Um, but I would just encourage you like diversifying the volume of vegetables that you're eating, the types of vegetables that you're eating, getting different types of these whole grains in your diet. Now, there are certain people who have, allergies to grains. Maybe people are allergic to wheat or allergic to all grains in general. So I just think it's important to mention that while it's kind of, I think, a general recommendation that's safe for most people to eat these different whole grains, it is worth mentioning that there are some people for whom those foods are not ideal. Um, so if you eat one of those foods and it makes you feel really bad, just something to note. Um, but generally, those are foods that are mostly safe for most people, and your body loves having a diverse, uh, you know, spectrum of nutrients that are coming in. So rather than only eating wheat as our only grain, diversifying it with some of these other ones like bulgur, farro, etc., is really nice. Um, Obviously, drinking plenty of water is really important for our kidneys as well, something that sometimes we don't think about. Um, and just while I'm on the topic, uh, how terrible sodas are for our kidneys. And I'll just show you. I'm super obsessed with this right now. Not just because of the amazing can, which is amazing, but this little kombucha drink. This particular one, magical lemon cupcake. It is so freaking good. It is so freaking good. Kombuchas are a little strange and they're a little like tart, right? The first time you drink one, you might be like, whoa, that's kind of weird. Um, but this like kombuchas are like my thing that I drink other than water or sometimes sparkling water. But I do not drink sodas anymore. And I'm a really big fan of this hum kombucha. And this can has 9 grams of sugar in it. So just compared to, I don't know how much a can of Coke, it's been so long since I looked. But just volume of sugar wise tends to be much lower. If you're drinking sodas, I really encourage you to try to either just drink fewer of them per day or start replacing them with other beverages. Um, Thank you, Just Joe. Thank you, L. Smith. You excel at public speaking and breaking down information. It's very helpful. Thank you. Thank you for your comment. That is so sweet. Um, what do you think of the Just Hemp protein and fiber? I I'm not familiar with that particular brand, but I definitely have, bought like hemp seeds. You can buy the little hemp, what are they called when I guess they're just hemp seeds. Oh yeah, just hemp. So then the question is like, how much processing is done to the hemp seeds in order to turn them into the powder? So let's see. It says hemp protein powder plus fiber, non-GMO. So yeah, hulled hemp seeds. So is this what you're talking about? Let me get this brightness down. So, because this is the same brand, Just Hemp, but it looks like the Just Hemp also they've got the kind of like big, plastic tub of protein powder. But I would encourage you instead of the big tub of protein powder. Oh yeah, here's the Just hemp protein and powder. So, God, there's so many of these now. I'm just trying to scroll down to the ingredients and it's like showing me 8 million other ingredients. Thank you. Thank you for making me scroll for like 8 hours. Hemp fiber, hemp protein powder. So, I mean, that's a pretty simple ingredient list. If I was going to use a protein powder, this might be one that I would be okay with because of an ingredient list like that. Like literally, the ingredients is the one thing that it's supposed to be. That's great. But I would say that the processing that goes into turning it into a powder, that is processing. And from the perspective of trying to eat things in their most natural state, my recommendation would be rather than getting the protein powder, you just get the actual hemp seeds themselves. And even this same brand has it, the hulled hemp seeds. Especially if you're throwing it like into a blender, into a smoothie or something. This is going to disappear just like the protein powder. Now, if you're just wanting to add it to water, obviously is a little different. But these little hemp seeds, they don't really taste like much. So I kind of add them to like everything. Like throw a handful of them in the salad, throw a handful of them on the top of a soup. Um, if you're having any kind of like, breakfasty, like oatmeal, cereal kind of situation, like throwing some hemp seeds on there as a great way of like adding some additional protein. The hemp seeds also have some of those different healthy omega-3 and 6 fats, really, which are really good for us as well. So just encourage you to like have the real food version rather than the one that's processed and turned into a powder. What is your take on alkaline water? And real quick, I just so I don't miss any of these other ones. Bessa 65, thank you so much. Y'all are so sweet. Thank you, John. So CH, this question. Alkaline water. So alkaline water is something that we've been hearing for a long time, right? This concept that maybe you've heard cancer can only survive or cancer can't survive in an alkaline environment. This is something that we hear a lot, and it's not that it's untrue, but what is a little bit what word am I looking for? What is a little bit misleading is for them to talk about it like we could just affect our body's alkalinity alkalinity level like a lever, right? Like, oh, I'll just drink more alkaline water and I'll be more alkaline. Eating more alkalizing foods. And I think that eating foods that have an alkalizing effect on the body is going to be a lot more effective than drinking water, which when you drink it is at an alkaline level. By drinking alkaline water, you're not actually changing the pH of your body. Or really, when they're talking about cancer and alkalinity, I believe they're talking about alkalinity of the blood. So there's this interesting question like, does drinking alkaline water make our blood more alkaline? Anyway, suffice it to say, I don't think that drinking alkaline water is the health savior that it has been largely built up as. In a lot of ways, the selling of alkaline waters, and I mean, now I just see tons of alkaline waters in the store, right? There's a lot of different brands that kind of hopped on that trend, but I think it's really kind of a misleading thing that drinking alkalized water makes us more alkaline. The things that we eat that go into our digestive tract. I mean, one thing to know is that your digestive tract is incredibly acidic, like crazy, crazy acidic. And we need the digestive system to be crazy acidic. That's how we, I don't know, don't die, right? Because that acidic nature of the digestive system is what helps break down the foods we eat, kill any bad bacteria or whatever that might be in those foods or be in the water we're drinking or something. So that's another interesting kind of thing too, right? Where it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to drink this alkaline water and put it into this like crazy, crazy acidic digestive tract, which largely is like, does the water even like stay alkaline? I don't know. So anyway, so my personal feeling, if you like drinking the alkaline water sometimes, I do think it's very refreshing. Like I've had a lot of those alkaline waters and like the crazy water, which is like naturally alkaline from the presence of the minerals where they well that water from. That's going to be different than a water that's like alkalized by something they add to it. So some of those waters, when you drink them, like, oh, you're like, oh, wow, it feels really good. And they are like amazing. I think it's because of the mineral content they contain, not the pH level of the water itself. So we're kind of looking at like, maybe we can drink mineral water, spring water, or like the presence of the minerals in the water because the water, because of where the water comes from, I think is more beneficial than just like the pH number itself. Especially because then they can kind of go in and artificially change the pH by adding this or adding that or whatever. It's not necessarily healthy, like the minerals that you're going to get in certain sources of water. Um, John says, "Help me, I was away." What's your question, John? I'm trying to scroll up. I don't see a question, but I do see you saying I was away. Can you help me? Okay, we got this alkaline water question. Oh, I have kidney failure. Yeah, hemp seeds on my homemade guac. Um, so yeah, John, if you actually are we talking in emails already? But a situation like that is something that I would be happy to help you with. But it's a little more specific. So we should get in either like doing health coaching or we can just email back and forth a little bit. Um, but yeah, I would want to maybe know a bit. Okay, so you have kidney failure, but I would love to just kind of get a little bit more background, on like the things you're eating and stuff like that. But I feel like within the chat room, within the live chat, it's a little specific. Um, oh, cool. Basis 65. Because of you, I drink kombucha when I'm in the mood for a soda. Awesome. Yeah, kombucha is it's a little strange the first couple times you drink it, but now I consider it like, oh my god, it's just my favorite thing. And then on the rare occasions that I do take a sip of a soda, I'm like, so now it's like the sodas taste really weird and kind of gross to me. And I'm just like a super kombucha addict. Um, so Bessa, I see your question here. Can you explain better yet? Would you demonstrate baking sweets and breads with alternative flours? Yeah. Yeah. I will see. It's so funny. I have a tiny kitchen, but I wanted to like do some like little cooking videos. And I was like, well, what is more like real than being in a freaking tiny kitchen? Like, so I think I gotta just like let go of the fact that like I have a tiny kitchen and like it's not as pretty and like whatever. But like that's what most kitchens that we have are like, right? So I always had this feeling like, oh, people like it when the cooking videos are like in this really fancy kitchen and everything's really fancy and everything's really nice. But that's not realistic. So yeah, I should totally do some little cooking videos. I can definitely, show some like making sweets with the alternative flours. For the most part, they're pretty like simple to just switch out in a recipe. And sometimes when you buy the flour, like if you buy a gluten-free baking flour and it's a maybe mixture of those that you've mentioned there, like arrowroot, tapioca, almond. Sometimes it'll even say on the back of the package how to use it in regular recipes. Like maybe you need to use a little bit more or a little bit less of regular flour, or it might tell you to like add a little bit more baking soda. Um, but yeah, I will definitely put something together like that and show y'all kind of like a healthy bacon, like a healthy, dessert type of thing. Um, So yeah, John, email Corrina now. That's the email. Email Corrina now. It has the word email in it, which in hindsight, silly. But email Corrina now at gmail.com. And that is my health coaching email, and I would be happy to get with you a little bit more and work out like an actual game plan for you for so your doctor said reducing sodium. Okay, great. Well, let's talk about how we actually do that. So we can even buy a low sodium sea salt that's going to help give you a lot of the other minerals, but they actually make one that's lower in sodium, specifically because there's so many people who are encouraged to lower their sodium. So that would be one little swap is that we're going to get the low sodium um, sea salt. We can talk about what type of foods you like and actually come up with some recipes that you can make. Or if there's things that you already make at home, then as we talk about that, and we can talk about ways, okay, how do we just take that thing you already make, you already know how to make it, you already know you like it. Let's just talk about ways we can make it healthier. Um, and yes, kombucha. It's interesting that your kidney doctor said forget exercise, eat less sodium. I wonder, did he say forget exercise because he just thinks that like no one's gonna actually do it? Or he's like really saying that like it's not gonna help? Or he's saying he thinks that you're in such a bad way that even exercise wouldn't help. Long story short, I would just say that exercise, I don't think ever is harmful for the body. And in terms of helping to tell our body, like, hey, we need all of our organs to be working, that's one of the benefits of exercise, is it's kind of like stimulating for a lot of different parts of the body. How much sodium is too much? Um, I mean, largely it's going to vary person to person, right? A little tiny girl who weighs like 120 pounds is going to have a different ideal sodium RDA or recommended daily allowance as a man who's 100, 250 pounds. But let's just see what it says our sodium RDA is. Um, Ideal limit of no more than 1,500 milligrams per day for most adults. So, an ideal limit of 1,500, an absolute limit of 2,300 milligrams. Um, oh, lordy Lulu. So here we have um, a can of Campbell's cream of chicken soup. Now, this is the cream of chicken I like to order, but on one of my curbside situations, they replaced it with this. And I thought, oh, okay, well, now I have a can of soup I can show in my live chats. Um, so, so one thing that's kind of interesting here, if we just kind of look at the sodium and look at these things. So this Campbell's can is 2.5 servings per can. So when we see the number on here, we got to multiply that by 2.5 to actually get uh, how much would be in the full can if you had the whole thing. On this one, this organic, this is Pacific Brands cream of chicken soup. It's actually broken down. It shows you per serving and per can. So that's kind of just a kind of cool, helpful thing. So this one is 870 milligrams of sodium per serving, and this one is 650 milligrams per serving. So it's just one tiny, kind of example. Now, any type of canned soup typically going to be high in sodium. Although there are some now that say low in sodium, you can even buy things that are salt free. And then you're going to have the ability to just add a little salt to taste, right? So, and what that means is however much salt you need to make it taste good. And I'm a big fan of, like, while I'm cooking things, I don't use a tremendous amount of salt, and then once I go to eat the thing, I have some salt nearby, and I can kind of add it as needed. If you've ever over salted something, that's the main reason why I do it, honestly. It's not because I'm trying to reduce my salt, it's because I hate when things get over salted. I hate when things get over salted. So, making things without salt or buying something salt-free and then having a little, low sodium sea salt that's with you when you eat, or even take it with you to a restaurant and keep it in your purse, um, is a nice way, right? To just make sure you're only taking in as much salt as you actually need to make the thing taste good. Because in general, things have way more sodium than they need. And just this one example, this one has about 200 more milligrams of sodium per serving than just this one that's, an organic, slightly less processed version. Um, yeah, homemade guacamole. Oh my gosh, you're making me so hungry, Bessa. Um, So yeah, homemade guacamole, they can't get enough of it. I had shallot, jalapeno, squeeze of lime, dried cilantro, and hemp seeds. Ooh, that sounds good. Yeah, no, you know what, Bessa? I've never cooked in my own kitchen. I've never cooked in my own kitchen. All of those other kitchen videos I made was at Mike's house. And I realized I told y'all that he had never been on camera, and then I realized he has gotten his hair cut a couple of times on the channel. The only time there's like a dude on the channel. Um, and we did have one or two males on the channel over the years, but they also were like, you know, the only normal looking person on the channel. That's anyway. But it was his big old fancy house that I was filming in. So my kitchen has never before been seen by the internet, actually. Um, so 0% of people meet those limits unless you eat no packaged foods at all. Yeah, I mean, so 2,300 is like the upper limit, and then it was saying like, oh, the ideal limit is quite a bit lower. But yeah, I mean, the numbers really are kind of ridiculous. And yeah, once you start looking at any kind of processed foods, much less, I mean, if you're going to a restaurant, they don't have to tell you what the sodium levels are. I mean, there are some restaurants now that do have that, which is very interesting, right? They're like, "Oh, wow, I can get 1,500 calories from this one plate of food. Great." Um, some places do kind of show you now, but in general, restaurants are trying to make their food taste really good. So, y they're tending to probably have a lot more crud in them than is necessary. And it's why I believe that cooking our meals at home is like really the only way to actually eat decently healthy. Um, because whether it's in a grocery store or not a whether it's in a restaurant, certainly fast food, most of us know now, okay, we shouldn't be eating fast food. But even in a lot of restaurants, I think that they're maybe, in terms of sodium levels and sugar levels and stuff could be just as bad or almost as bad as some fast food places. All right. Jules. Yeah, although I would say that's an insult to gremlins. Okay. Okay. Because gremlins never hurt anybody, really. um, Lewis Thompson, glad to see you here. Thank you so much. You should do how many hot dog weenies are in fast food series again? Oh, yeah. So yeah, okay. Lewis is referencing this video that I did a long time ago where I was like looking at I think it was like Wendy's meals and Taco Bell meals, and then I showed like what would be the equivalent number of hot dog weenies to get that same number of calories, just to like illustrate like would you ever eat 11 hot dog weenies? Would you ever eat 14 hot dog weenies? I forgot about that. That is hilarious, Lewis, and, like, um I may have to do another video like that again. Famous foods like Oreo blizzards. Wow. Yeah, man, Panera. Because I ate there a few times, and I was like, "Oh, it's so good. It's too good." So anyway, she's saying she bought a little 10-ounce cup of macaroni and cheese from Panera, and she's just looking at the nutrition label and has 1,390 milligrams of sodium. Wow. How many hot dog weenies are in Panera bread? Um, you know, good lord. Um, I'm pretty sure oh. Yeah, Lord Vader's wife. I have not heard of anyone else who saw that. Um, I am not surprised to hear that at all, although that makes me feel horrified, absolutely horrified for those women who are there in his house now with him. Um, how many hot dog weenies are in the Cheesecake Factory meals? Man, yeah, Cheesecake Factory. Oh, that's got to be like up there in sodium content and who frickin' knows what. Um, but yeah, man, that's crazy though. 1,400 milligrams of sodium in a 10-ounce thing of macaroni and cheese. That is just crazy. And then that's like one of the things as I'm like talking to people about, transitioning away from and it's messed up that like even restaurants because I used to really feel that like restaurants were a healthier option than fast food. And I think that they are. I think that like there's still a step up from fast food. But in order to compete with the sheer volume of flavor that people are accustomed to from eating those foods, most of the restaurants are basically also now making fast food because that's just where people's palate is at. Um, and who owns Panera? McDonald's? Who owns Panera? Sorry, y'all. I'm such a dork. Ah. Owned by Jab Holding Company, which is in turn owned by the Reimann family of Germany. Jab Holding owns Panera Bread, Krispy Kreme, and Pret a Manger. It's buying another sandwich chain. So, maybe Panera, maybe they're not too bad. Maybe it's real food. I don't know. But largely, any of these restaurants who are essentially competing for fast food customers, I feel, um, they end up, just from the market demand being forced to add a bunch of sugar, a bunch of sodium, a bunch of whatever else. Um, and then, Okay, Lewis, you should do the top 10 healthy sources of carbs, 10 healthy sources of fat. I love that idea. I love that idea. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to write it down on my notepad. All I have to do is find a pen. Ten. But yeah, and I will redo the protein one as well because I'm sure I can find some good new, some good new info in that regard as well. Um, yeah, Lewis, man, I promise a lot of videos that I don't do. It's difficult. I will say my list of like videos I want to make is like very, very long. And now I got like a list of ASMR videos I want to make, list of health videos I want to make, list of like yoga videos I want to make, and I still want to like make some music videos and sing some songs, and that's like my that I love. So I just have these like growing to-do lists, and then I meanwhile have this like tremendous amount of video editing that I'm doing, and I'm like, well, it would be silly to film like 10 more hours of video, and I still have like 10 hours of video to edit. Back in the day, you know, we had professional video editors and stuff, and that was very, very helpful. So it's a little difficult now. I'm like literally doing all of this completely by myself. So I don't, you know, that's one of the reasons I'm doing these live streams instead of videos because I love doing this. I love hanging out and interacting with y'all. And then it saves me so much time compared to like filming a video, you know, film the video, set the video up, and then actually filming it and then editing it and then making an icon. I mean, it's just a lot. So I want to do all these things. One of the things that I was told to do when I was working for my previous employer was to constantly tell people, I'm going to do a video on this, leave a comment, and I'm going to do a video on this. And I was instructed to do that. And I remember expressing to him that I felt it was very misleading. And he was like, I don't care. So I literally feel terrible about that. Like he wanted there, you know, to be videos that we said we were going to make and we didn't make or whatever. And I was like, that feels messed up. But that was like the least of my problems there, realistically. So I am going to try to be better about that. But I also just want to be like completely transparent, honest with you. Like, I'm overwhelmed and overloaded and already sitting here like I can barely like juggle all of the things I'm trying to do. So I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best. Oh, very interesting. Very interesting, Lady Vader. Lewis Thompson, please do a video on artificial flavors and natural flavors, banned ingredients used in the USA, top 10 weird, freaky, disgusting food ingredients like beaver butt juice. Oh, disgusting. Freaky, disgusting food chemicals. All right, so at this point, I'm just going to copy and paste this over to a little documento. What can we do here? Thank you for all these ideas. I love this. And you know, part of my 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 goal is to like cover all of these topics, but then I also yeah, I'm just constantly juggling like all the things I want to do. 100% grass-fed beef sausages. Oh wait, 100% grass-fed sausages with fermented sauerkraut and mustard. Ooh, that sounds really good. And yeah, um, sauerkraut, then you've got the fermented foods, probiotic benefits of that, so awesome. If you're gonna ruin all my comfort foods for me, you know what, Mel B, someone shared something yesterday. It was about actually, you know what? This is totally relevant. It was about the fries at Chick-fil-A, and they contain polydimethylsiloxane. Polydimethylsiloxane is one of those weird chemicals, um, that they've also found like, "Oh, hey, guess what? Turns out it's toxic and we shouldn't be eating that." So, she was like, "If I have to have my favorite foods ruined, I'm taking you down with me." And so, I kind of was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm totally, like, feeling that energy." Because when I'm telling you guys about foods, y'all should know a lot of the time, those were also my favorite foods too. And I do love the fries at Chick-fil-A, but I don't think I will ever be able to eat them again. Um, Now saying that, I've not had fries from Chick-fil-A in probably like 5 or 6 years. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. Because I kind of knew, right? I know all the fast food places are using these weird things. Please do a video on artificial okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, the Beetlejuice chemicals. Very, very interesting, Lady Vader. Thank you for sharing that and letting me know. Um, I never met Fair. She seems like a very nice girl. I worry about her. Okay, for a non-veggie lover like me, I do love low sodium version V8. Oh yeah, V8 is good. Is that an acceptable substitute when need veggies but can't eat them for whatever reason? I would say so. And I also love like tomato juice kind of stuff, V8s and whatnot. I do think that it's worth noting that when we, like, actually eat the vegetables and we get the fiber is really important. Um, I definitely think, like, using a V8 to, like, fill in our number of servings of vegetables is a worthy thing to do. And then, another good thing for, like, people that, like, don't really like eating vegetables, if you have a blender, making soups. Just, whatever veggies you have around or whatever, whether it's like a potato-based soup is pretty much always gonna be a hit. Um, but even, throwing some like carrots, cauliflowers, broccoli, whatever in, and then some like yummy spices, blending the veggies into a soup is a good way of like, you know, getting the veggies in without them being like quite as offensive. Um, I do think that the fiber in the veggies, though, is a really important part of why we want to eat them. So we don't get that if we're just having a juice. Celebrity diets, Channing Tatum, Paris Hilton. Y'all remember when I did the Lady Gaga diet video and I actually like just put on like crazy makeup and it was so silly. It was so silly. But I actually had a really fun time like doing the research for that video. I was thinking when, Gwyneth Paltrow got all of that attention about, like, eating bone broth for lunch. I was just like I thought I should make a video about Gwyneth Paltrow's way of eating, but, like, she looks like she has an eating disorder, so, like, why were people surprised when she's like, "Sometimes I have a bone broth for lunch. Anyway. You should do an updated Photoshop video, body positivity. Now that we have social media and not everyone looks perfectly skinny, and even those perfectly skinny still have a belly. Yeah, the body positivity movement, I think, has been wonderful. It has definitely done a lot for my own personal body positivity. Um, but yeah, I really like the one that Cassie Ho from Blogilates did a while back about body positivity. It was a really nice video. Um, all right, you guys. So I actually do need to get running for the evening. I have a couple of little errands that I need to go do. How many hot dog weenies in Lady Gaga's diet? Oh, that's hilarious. Um, oh yeah, so apple cider vinegar. Yeah, apple cider vinegar is a very pungent flavor, and water can be a little crazy. So yeah, taking the ACV apple cider vinegar as like caplets or pills definitely can be beneficial. And yes, much nicer to not have to take in the flavor of the vinegar. I know some people actually kind of like those vinegar flavored drinks, and like kudos to you. But yeah, apple cider vinegar can be a great way of helping your digestive acids becoming more acidic, and that improves your digestion, right? Because you want your digestive system to be acidic. So, so yeah, gummies is another one. Sometimes when they make things into gummies, they end up adding so much sugar to the thing that then you're kind of like, well, you know. But ACV is very beneficial. Maybe a caplet or a pill might be a little better than a gummy, because who knows? But the gummies probably taste really freaking good. So then you're like, well, if I'm really enjoying these gummies and they're kind of healthy too. Anyway. Yeah, I know. I kind of don't like swallowing pills either. Kind of the same way. Can totally get with you on that. I'm always like, ugh, 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 ugh. So then in that regard, right? You're like, oh, I don't really like taking pills. Then like maybe the gummies that's just the best way to go, right? All right, you guys. So I want to say thank y'all for being here with me. Um, is this a good time slot? Should we make this like our regular time slot? Um, I'm also open with like playing with different days of the week. Um, Sweetener deep dive. I'm putting that on here too. Um, so yeah, so I have a lot of different videos I want to make and different ideas I want to make, and I appreciate y'all being patient with me and understanding. It was so funny. I thought I was gonna have the next ASMR video like ready to post last night, which is why I had told y'all I was gonna do Saturday. And anyways, it's not even close to being done. So I was like, well, um, yeah. So thank you for your patience and your understanding. And it means the world to me. Um, jump back and forth this time or very late. So yeah, I do the ASMR videos. Those are later, right? Because they're a little more bedtimey. I feel like doing health live chat late at night would be like a little strange, but like, you know, um, I'm also like, because some of us are in different time zones too. Like I get that as well. So yeah, I know that would rev me up. I'd be like, all right, guys, I'm freaking 2 in the morning and now I'm gonna be awake for the next 8 hours. So we'll keep this for a little while, at least for like a week or two, and kind of see if this works out and everything. But I want to thank you guys so much for all of your amazing questions and amazing video ideas. I wrote some stuff down and I will try to get these out for you. I realized that like in my mind, I I want to film the video and then go in and like add in a bunch of pictures and a bunch of pictures of food and a bunch of ingredient labels and like a bunch of like articles that are like showing the supporting information I'm using. That adds so many hours to the editing process. If I just put up a video of me sitting there talking, like it's more boring. I think it would be more boring. But it would actually like allow me to get videos up a lot more easily. Whereas like I kind of like put all of this on myself that like, I want the edit to be all like not even fancy, but just like have, a bunch of stuff in it. And maybe that's not necessary. Maybe I can just like sit here and talk and let that be sufficient. Anyhow, guys, thank y'all for being here. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Bessa. You're so sweet. So we got Mel B, L. Smith, Jules, Lewis Thompson. Thank you so much. Bessa 65. Who else am I missing in here? I know John was here earlier. I don't know if I still see John in here now. But thanks, y'all, for being here. You guys are so kind. I can't wait to see you again. So our next live chat will be our Wednesday ASMR. I'm pretty excited to use the Magna Doodle in the ASMR. I gotta tell you guys, because like, y'all remember the Magna Doodle, right? So anyways, I thought this sound next to the 3DO would like be pretty cool. And then I can like write messages to y'all. Like, BRB muted. Anyways, so this is fun. And I'm going to try to get my hands on an FM radio for It Is I, because I know he's been asking for the FM radio for a while. And yeah, it's so funny. I freaking had my ice globes out sitting here last night, and then I totally forgot to do the ice globes for the whole chat. So anyhow, we'll like have a really nice fun time on Wednesday. Yes, Etch-a-Sketch. I can't find my childhood Etch-a-Sketch. I'm like, where is it? But I will say, I think it'll be funny. You guys sitting there watching me trying to like actually write something on the Etch-a-Sketch. Like that was so frustrating to me. I remember like when you like wanted to like write a message on the Etch-a-Sketch, like what a faff that was. But that would be fun. And then this crazy guy too. So yeah, we'll do a little like, because I realized last night I didn't do any of the like 80s toys or any of the things, and I like felt all remiss. I was like, oh, I kind of feel bad. Anyways, so we'll do some of that, and it'll be really fun. Oh, I did have a light bright. I definitely had a light bright. Oh, do I still? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh, my light bright. Man, if I can find my light bright, that will be insane. And the little sound when you put the little pin through the black paper on the light bright, holy moly, that probably sounds so good. Etch-a-Sketch, light bright. I know my Teddy Ruxpin is somewhere, so I'm gonna try to find my Teddy Ruxpin too. Do any of y'all watch the LA Beast? He does like eating challenges and stuff. But anyways, he did a video showing all of his old toys from the 80s, and I just loved it so much. I was like, oh, so that's kind of what gave me the idea was the LA Beast video where he was like showing his Teddy Ruxpin and toys or whatever. And I was like, this is so awesome. The like freaking nostalgia. of these old toys. Um, so yes, I have lots of fun things in store for Wednesday, so that will be a super good time. And I will look forward to seeing y'all there or some of y'all just back for the next health live chat on Monday. But thank y'all so much for being here. It means the literal world to me. And I hope that you have a lovely, lovely rest of your evening. I feel like I should have a little song for the health coach too. Thank you for listening to me blabber. Hey, hey, hey. Y'all have a lovely, lovely night. And I will see y'all very, very soon. Thank you so much.